So, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to present a paper on the spiritual power of the Ramayana. And honest to God, it's on paper. Nobody does that anymore. But anyway, namaskar, Jai Shri Ram. And I want to first thank Dr. Gumasta and his crew of volunteers and all of you for participating in the festival and inviting me here. And this is one of the ways we keep the topic of the Ramayana relevant. It's a way to analyze it, show its influence, and in that way protect it, protect the tradition, preserve the tradition, also promote it by letting other people know about it, and perpetuating it for generations into the future. So this is a very important aspect of keeping our freedom to make sure that we can continue to participate in this culture, this Vedic culture of India. Because as Major General Bhiksha was saying, we have to work to preserve our freedom. We have to work to maintain that we continue to have the freedom to observe our culture the way we do. Otherwise, we can lose it, and once the freedom is gone, there's not much else you can do about it. So anyway, I'm going to use the Valmiki Ramayana, and in the Uttarakhanda, chapter 20, Narada Muni actually meets the demon Ravana and tries to convince him to stop trying to convert the earthly world of mortals, meaning the world of humans, when their situation is so pitiable anyway, and when there is someone who he should more closely focus on conquering, which is Lord Yama, the Lord of Death. If death can be conquered, which is the ultimate obstacle for any big materialist, because as they say, you know, when you're well established, the last thing you want to do is you want to die. You don't want to lose any of that. Or as in America they say, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. Right? But as Brahm Bhaktas, we know we can utilize death as the vehicle by which we can attain higher realms. So anyway, in his talk, Narada Muni discusses with the great demon Ravana the poor situation of those in human life. And you can relate this to any species of life, quite honestly. But he says, who would destroy people who are utterly ignorant of their highest interest and are surrounded by major calamities and who are subject to old age and hundreds of diseases? What wise man would love to sow destruction through warfare in the world of human beings who are constantly afflicted by adverse contingencies here, there, and everywhere? Pray do not destroy people who are being preyed upon by hunger, thirst, old age, and so on, doomed as they are by fate, and who stand bewildered by melancholy and sorrow. Almighty armed Lord of the Rakshasas, just look at this world of human beings who, though ignorant, are yet addicted to diverse pursuits and who do not know what is in store for them by such endeavors. In other words, they're engaged in so many different things and they don't even know the karma they're accumulating by such endeavors. At such places, instrumental music, or at some places, instrumental music made and dance are enjoyed by men who are full of delight, while others are in distress and crying with tears streaming from their eyes and down their faces, deluded by fondness for their mother, father, sons, and such airy projects relating to their wife and relatives, yet fallen from virtue. Humanity does not see their own suffering. The example is like a camel who relishes the taste of eating a certain bush, but he does not know that he's eating the thorny bush, and the taste he's relishing is his own blood. So we want to try to avoid that situation. Therefore, Narada Muni continues, what will you gain by harassing them as you do in this world of mortals, which is already undone by its own delusions? O friend, the world of mortals stands already undone and conquered by you. There's no doubt about it. all these beings will seek the abode of Yamaraj, the Lord of Death. Therefore, O sign of Pulastya, subdue Yama, O conqueror of hostile cities. When he is conquered, all else automatically is conquered. There is no doubt about it. End quote. So here Narada Muni explains many of the difficulties that humans encounter, but it is through the power of the Ramayana that all these challenges can be rectified if we use it properly, as is explained next. So, in spite of all the troubles in human life, not to mention in other species, there are remedies and blessings that can help people that rise above such problems, one of which is simply the story of the Ramayana. The presence of Lord Ram, along with his story in the Ramayana, are means by which all of society can be uplifted, not only from their problems in life, but from the continuation of material existence itself. So, how do I show this? How do I show this? It is in chapter 1 of the Balakanda in the Valmiki Ramayana, which is in the very first part of the Ramayana, verses 98 through 100. It says, "He who reads this sacred narrative of Sri Ram, which is capable of purifying the mind and wiping out sins or bad karma, and is treated in par with the Vedas, is completely absolved of all sins. Reading this narrative centering around Sri Ram and conducive to longevity, a person shall, on departing from this world, be honored in heaven, along with his sons and grandsons, as well as his followers and attendants. By reading it, any person from any varna will rise in stature." But then we have more evidence. Furthermore, in chapter 111 of the Uttarakanda, the final chapter in the whole epic, it further describes the potency of reading this sacred literature and the benefits one attains by doing so. It explains, this is the account together with the Uttarakanda, which is worshipped by the Brahmins and Rishis, known as the Ramayana and chiefly composed by the sage Valmiki. Then, after all had gone to heaven, or in other words, when Lord Ram wraps up his pastimes and leaves this world, Vishnu was established in heaven as before. So this means contemplating Lord Ram is the same as contemplating on Lord Vishnu or Krishna. Therefore, the gods with the Gandharvas, the Siddhas, and the great sages listen to the Ramayana epic as it is being sung in heaven eternally with pleasure. So the Ramayana is enjoyed with pleasure even in the higher realms, such as the heavens. This legend of the Ramayana is the giver of longevity, the enhancer of fortune, and the dispeller of sins, and is equal to the Vedas. And the wise should cause it to be heard in the funeral rites. In other words, we have to understand that when somebody leaves this world through death, the last sense to go is the sense of hearing. And if this person is hearing the Ramayana, that vibration itself will be able to transfer him, compel him, and project him into the higher levels of reality. So this is very important, especially in dealing with hospice patients, things like that, where we give them the opportunity to hear the Ramayana so that they can make the best use of their experience of leaving and transitioning out of this world. The sunless one obtains a son, and the poor gets wealth by hearing it, and he who reads even a quarter of this Ramayana is freed from all sins. The man who commits sins every day is also freed from sins if he reads even one shloka of the Ramayana. Of course, the idea behind that is you can't read just one shloka. Once you read one shloka, you want to read more. So this entices even the sinful person to begin reading the Ramayana, even with one shloka, because once he begins, he'll continue. Cloth, cow, gold should be offered to one who recites the Ramayana. If the reciter is satisfied, all the gods would be pleased. The man reading this life-giving legend enjoys pleasures with his sons and grandsons and becomes honored in the other world also. Reciting the Ramayana attentively at the time of making a gift of a cow at midday or afternoon or evening, one never becomes disheartened. So, this, by the way, we should point out, is one of the prerequisites or qualifications of gaining merit when reading the Ramayana. It must be read in attentiveness and with devotion. Senses must be controlled and mind must be focused if you want to get the most out of your experience and the most punya out of your experience of reading the Ramayana. The Ramayana goes on to say, a man gets the retributions of performing 1,000 Ashvamedas and 10,000 Vajpayee sacrifices merely by hearing this Ramayana. How can you calculate that? That's incredible. So, he has truly visited all the shrines of Prayag and other holy places and all the sacred rivers headed by the Ganga, as well as the forests like Naimisharanya and Kurukshetra and others in this world who has listened to the Ramayana. So in other words, just by listening to the Ramayana, one gets so many pious results automatically. So he who listens to the story of Lord Ram with full reverence roots out all sins and goes back to the world of Vishnu. So, what are we waiting for? This is the first and the foremost epic composed in the ages of the remote past by the sage Valmiki. He who listens to it every day attains liberation. Blessed with wife, his progenies and wealth are multiplied. One should listen to it knowing it to be completely true and with organs controlled. The Ramayana is the unsurpassed form of the Gayatri mantra. In other words, it is the elaboration of the Gayatri mantra. It is the elaboration of the spiritual truths in the four original Samhitas, Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Atharva Veda, and so on, and the Upanishads. So he who narrates or listens to this story of Sri Ram, the descendant of Raghu, with reverence and devotion, becomes sinless and attains a very long life. He who wants to secure bliss should contemplate on Sri Ram and should narrate this story before Brahmins day by day, or you can simply sit down and read it in your own temple room or in your own living room for that matter. Sometimes Brahmins are a little hard to find in order to accomplish this, but he who reads this whole Ramayana story of Sri Ram undoubtedly shall attain the world of Vishnu after the end of his life. His father, grandfather, and great-grandfather, and even fathers of the sub-ancestors attain the world of Vishnu. So in other words, simply by reading with attention and devotion this epic of Ramayana, you are automatically benefiting generations of your whole family, backward and forward. What other process is as easy as that? And we should take this as true because so many of the acharyas have based their own process, their own career, you might say, their own credibility on the authority of the Ramayana. So, by listening to even a syllable or quarter of a verse of the Ramayana with reverence, one attains the world of Brahma and is regarded and respected there by him. Thus runs this historical narrative, and may all be well with your readers and audiences. Utter it not inarticulately, and repeat it confidently. By this process, may the power of Lord Vishnu, as Sri Ram, grow immensely. So it is quoted from the Ramayana itself. This is the power it holds in its ability to raise humanity and the world to a higher level of consciousness and also solve the most pertinent problems faced by society. What more can be said than this? This is the real treasure of India. This is the real treasure of the Vedic culture and the Vedic system that has always given humanity its best opportunity to reach its highest potential. Highest potential in occupationally, healthily, mentally, emotionally, and ultimately spiritually. It is based on universal spiritual principles, which means anyone, anywhere, from any background, in any part of the universe, can get benefit by these spiritual truths as we find in such books as the Ramayana. So thank you very much. Jai Shri Ram.